there are a lot of this series of airships that fly commercially. ABC, American Blimp Company, out of Hillsboro, Oregon, is the manufacturer. They are the manufacturer for the class of ships that are operated by the Lightship Group. And you may have seen some of those in other venues where they light up at night. The entire blimp lights up like a big light bulb. Very impressive. And that's a patented feature of the series of airships that this comes from. Ours is different, though. It is not a light ship. The government specified that the envelope skin would not be translucent. Ours is opaque, and that's to help mitigate some of the effects of sunlight heating up, superheating the helium, which for us it introduces problems when you're trying to do max endurance flights and adding equipment, taking it off, weight changes. It just makes things a little more complicated for us. So
how many gallons of gasoline is on there?
We have the ability to carry roughly 200 gallons of gasoline. Average, if you average it out over time, all modes of flight, all environmental conditions, 11 gallons an hour. So, we've got slightly less. If we were burning 11 gallons an hour, we've got slightly less than 20 hours of fuel on board. However, if they're doing fixed base operations where they're just loitering, just checking the wind, we get down around 6 to 9 gallons an hour, and the airship system's endurance is greater than 24 hours.
Noisy in the gondola?
It can be only when the engines are at high speed. Usually during takeoff and landing, when we're taking off into the wind and have to really give it some juice. But up and away, especially if all you're doing is trying to hold position and loiter, and they idle the motors back, it becomes very pleasant. And you'll find we have headsets in there too. So with the headsets on, it's very, very nice.
Are there weight considerations and everything for this, or?
Yes, there are weight considerations. The maximum payload that I advertise is 2,500 pounds. So, and just so in case you're wondering, there's room in the gondola for 10 bodies, 2 pilots, 8 passengers. So if you figure 200 pounds a person, that's quite a bit of weight right there concentrated in that gondola. And you'll see that the ship, it can handle that just fine. The interesting thing when you talk about weight with airships is that as it's flying, it's burning fuel, so it's getting lighter. So as they fly, they typically take off a few pounds heavy, or when I say a few hundred pounds heavy. They're actually heavier than air when they take off, and they have to get a little bit of a roll, an angle of attack, like a wing, to generate some dynamic lift. But once they're up in the air and are burning fuel, they'll get lighter and lighter and approach equilibrium, just like a scuba diver with a weight belt underwater wants to be neutrally buoyant. And as they continue to fly, they get light, and they actually come back light and have to push themselves back to the ground. I'm a retired helicopter pilot, and I never imagined a pilot could have such a problem, trying to get back to the earth. But it can be challenging if they're very, very light.
Usually the opposite is true, right?
Yeah, and so, and I've been quoted in other periodicals. An airship is like a submarine in the air. It's the analog of a submarine. Submariners understand the properties of airships very quickly because they too try to operate around equilibrium, neutral buoyancy underwater.
How does this compare in size to the Goodyear?
Ours is slightly smaller than the series of ships that you see, the Goodyear ships flying here in the United States.
And what about wind? I mean, how much? What's like the maximum miles per hour wind you can fly? Is that really effective?
Well, our maximum airspeed on this airship is 45 knots. That's a little over 50 miles an hour. So what it can do and what it's going to be worth doing for the day might be slightly different. If I needed to just go in the air and stay right over the field, I could fly in higher winds, upwards of 30, 35 knots. But I wouldn't want to have a single engine failure or something like that, because I might not, I might get blown down and not be able to make it back to the field. So the winds are over 30 knots or bumping around 30 knots. We're going to think really hard about going up.
What's 30 knots compared to how many miles an hour?
About 35 miles an hour. So we're probably not going to fly if the winds are over 25 to 30 knots, because that, if we were to have an engine failure, it could really complicate things for us for the day. single engine airspeed of the airship is roughly 28 knots. So you want to have some speed advantage to make it back to base. But and sometimes when we're planning our missions, any aircraft that you operate has mission planning parameters. You always plan your missions. Depending on what it is, particularly if it's over water, we're going to want to know what the winds are. If the winds are blowing out to sea, then we want to make sure that we have all of our radios and everything checked, life rafts and all that, and have a plan in case something should go wrong. But again, it's the wind speed that's going to dictate whether we leave the shoreline or not. If it's blowing the other direction, which it typically is, then we can fly offshore 30 to 50 miles without a whole lot of hurting. Pardon me?
What is the future of the program look like?
This is not a program of record for the Navy. This is what we call it a project. And it's really a support platform for Naval Air Systems. And we consider this a joint asset. In other words, we provide lighter than air flight service, S&T post platform to any DoD service and other governmental agency that has need. And based on the intensity of that need, we may relocate to wherever that business is. So in some cases, they bring the business to us, and we just integrate the projects and fly it. In cases, for instance, Mexico, when we were doing the oil horizon, providing assistance for oil identification and recovery, had to go down there. We deployed down here.
Is there any particular reason why it's stationed in
Actually, we're not stationed in Lakehurst right now. We brought it in yesterday to support this event. It wasn't far away. It was over in Aberdeen, Maryland. We were in Aberdeen at the C4ISR campus there in Aberdeen Proving Ground. We're providing host service for some a mission system that we're about to get installed on there. So they asked that we relocate there so that their engineers could be near the ship and we could take measurements and design the systems that we want to go on board. And we're in the process of integrating those systems now into mission modules, and those will be installed later this month.
what about the frequency? The trips that he's made around the area? Is that for any particular reason based on the geography of the area?
Well, one of the things, we're coming off mast right now, so you might want to know your attention to that. Just for a second. I'll talk while we're doing this. The thing that we're promoting with airships is one of the primary objectives of our operation is to demonstrate the extreme endurance that airships are capable of and their very, very high readiness rates. So you'll typically try to fly 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, for 120 hours a month. That's the commodity that we offer to our customers. Our mission to be a very spacious surrogate for mission systems. And we're a demonstrator of this quality. And there's good work going on. We maintain the best trained pilots, most proficient pilots in the country right now. And we also maintain their night currency and their instrument currency. So they're not just fair weather pilots. Although we couldn't have asked for a better job. Still like it was just a little bit ago. Sometimes it can swing more suddenly because there's no direct wind providing its steady direction. If there's anything I say that you don't understand, just say it. Now, they're going to get out to the operating area where they intend to take off. You're going to see them lifted up in the air a couple times, and they're determining where the equilibrium point is. They'll take some bags off and let it go, or add some bags and let it go, and when they let it go and it doesn't go anywhere, they're at equilibrium. And then the pilot's going to tell them how many bags down or how heavy he wants to be for takeoff. He might actually take off at EQ or light because we want you to see how quietly and gracefully this can take off. As compared to the other airplane. You'll notice getting ready to take off when you see the crewman come out from underneath the floor. You see him taking bags off right now? A bag, each one of those bags is full of shot, weighs 25 pounds. So when you see one of those guys running across the field with 4 of those in his hands, it's called a way off.
Well, I can scratch flying on a blimp off my bucket list. I don't think I'll ever get on the space shuttle. That program's done.
Okay, it's like, see how the wind's changing? See how the crew's repositioning? That's they're responding to the wind. It is the largest weather vane on the airfield.
So this is a pilot program that looking to go in the future and expand it if it works, or
I can't. There aren't any current plans to expand. The Navy is the service with the most operational history with these. Okay, here they go.
wow. Metrics are supporting that. And then we have mission systems on board. They're operating those systems, collecting data, and allowing and giving you an opportunity to really learn in those systems, as opposed to other aircraft where